Welcome to Friday Morning Dharma on October 4th, maybe something like that. Yep, thumbs up on October 4th. Why don't we go ahead and settle into a comfortable meditation posture? Please take care to ensure that your spine is straight and relaxed. Please feel free to emulate the mountain, a still mountain perhaps, balanced, grounded, and stable. Using whichever method you find most effective, please allow both your physical body and your mind to start to settle and to rest, to become quiet and still. Now is not the time to reflect on events that have occurred in the past, nor is this the time to speculate about events that may or may not occur in the future. Now is the time to be fully present here in this moment. Now is the time to give yourself full permission to take refuge in a practice that's going to bring you a peaceful state of mind and thus create the karmic causes for you to experience a peaceful world. Please gently transition into meditation on the inner body. Be the silent observer of sensations that may start in your hands and your feet in the form of a tingling, perhaps a lightness, perhaps a heaviness, perhaps a pulsation. No analysis is necessary. No conceptual elaborations of any kind are necessary. All that is asked of you is to silently observe and allow a more awakened state of awareness to emerge. No hope, no fear, no praise, no blame, no speculation, no expectation. Simply, silently observing and thus awakening to this confused notion of an inherently existing body that is separate from an inherently existing mind, thus awakening from this confused notion of an inherently existing self. Please continue to silently observe. Now, please gently redirect your awareness. Allow physical body to reappear. Deepen your breath. Please allow garments of clothing resting on the surface of physical body to reappear. Become aware again of your surroundings inside the room that you're occupying. Deeper and deeper breaths, and become aware again of the world that exists outside of the room that you're occupying. Become aware again of clouds, of blue sky beyond the clouds, of outer space beyond the blue sky. We dedicate all of the merit from this morning's meditation and Dharma talk to world peace. May all beings without exception soon come to enjoy an abundance of pure air and water, delicious, nutritious food, safe, warm, dry, reliable, affordable shelter, and comfortable, functional, attractive clothing. And with everyone's basic needs met, may we all enter and progress on wisdom paths that lead to complete and permanent liberation from all forms of suffering. Completely fill up your belly and lungs with air, and when you're ready, you can open your eyes and bring your meditation to an end. Thank you. Thank you, and welcome back. So we have for the last several classes, we have been talking about what Ziglar Kongtrul refers to, Ziglar Kongtrul being the author of Training in Tenderness, a text on Sewa, the tender heart, the warm heart. We've been talking about the root of all impediments, which is the illusory self. We're going to move on from that topic for now. As I appealed during Monday's class, at the end of Monday's class, although we're moving on from it in terms of discussion of it in our Monday, Friday classes, I hope that you'll never move on from contemplations and examination of the illusory self and the difficulties that it creates. Something that I said over and over was sort of an explanation of how awakening to the illusory self can bring about a cessation of all forms of suffering. You'll recall that I said that by awakening to the fact that there's not a truly existing, intrinsically existing self, there will be no basis for us to experience suffering. We will get up and off of the karmic wheel, and we'll never take another rebirth. We'll never take another rebirth, and thus we will be liberated from samsara. Samsara being translated being cyclic existence, the cycle of birth, aging, sickness, death, rebirth, aging, sickness, death, over and over in perpetuity. If we awaken to the fact that there's not a truly existing self there, then there's no basis for us to take rebirth. And we just abide in a state of, we abide in pure consciousness, the nature of which is unimaginable bliss. So we may be wondering, and if you are wondering, it's a good, worthwhile wondering to do, like, tell me again what the consequences, tell me again why, like, rebirth is a bad thing. Yeah, because we may be, like, if you're at all like me, before I had sort of like a thorough understanding and appreciation of the consequences of rebirth, we might have had this sort of vague, again, this is just me talking, recalling kind of how I viewed rebirth or reincarnation. I might take rebirth as a hawk, as a hawk flying around over the Gila wilderness, flying and soaring. And, that doesn't seem to be so bad. Or like, a deer somewhere, or maybe take rebirth as in the human form. It's worthwhile for us to really examine that, or that notion of rebirth doesn't seem so problematic. I don't see why it's sort of why getting why liberating ourselves from rebirth, or uncontrolled rebirth, the term is sometimes used. I don't see why liberating ourselves from uncontrolled rebirth is actually liberation. I don't know. I still don't really get it. And that's okay if you don't. And it's good. I mean, you can never get it if you don't want to. I mean, you have freedom to adopt whatever views you want. Of course, we all have that freedom. We can't, I mean, from my perspective, I can't talk about or examine the consequences of uncontrolled rebirth without talking about the first noble truth of Buddhism, which is first you should know suffering. The first noble truth of Buddhism is you should know suffering. It's not all life is suffering. That's a common mispresentation of the first noble truth. The first noble truth is you should know suffering. And what the Buddha was referring to specifically is you should know the suffering of future lives, right? Because our future lives are countless, where this is one short, relatively speaking, this is one short incarnation, one short life relative to all of the countless lives that we'll experience. So, one of my, and I would invite you to be creative in this examination. And one of my favorite examinations and contemplations with regard to the sufferings of future lives are ants, ants. I think for most of us who have homes, there's like an ant season, or at least there is for me in my little place where I live here in Silver City. It's usually in the summertime. There's like a proliferation of ants, usually in my kitchen, because that's where the food is, right? And so I go through this process of relocating the ants, which itself could be a source of an object of examination. Like, why are you relocating the ants, Jeff? Why are you moving the ants outside of from your kitchen to outside of your apartment? Because it's my apartment, right? Me and mine. It's my apartment. And my comforts are more important than the presence of ants in my apartment. Apparently, I don't have that thought every time, but apparently that's what's behind my relocation of the ants. But anyways, that's another topic for another time. With regard to relocating ants, it's kind of tricky because the little sugar ants, they're sometimes called, are teeny tiny, you know? And so when I relocate them, I have to get as thin a piece of paper as I can possibly find and try to get the ant to crawl up on the piece of paper so I can take him or her outside and put them outside in the dirt. Really curious to note that the ant usually doesn't like to go up on the piece of paper. It comes up to the edge of the piece of paper and then moves in a different direction, indicating conclusively that the ant has consciousness. That is so trippy. It's just mind-blowing to me that this teeny tiny insect has consciousness. It's saying, apparently, indicating, I don't like this piece of paper. I don't want to go there. I want to go somewhere else. Ants and all insects have consciousness. How is it that I was born in a human form and not in an ant form, a sugar ant form? The answer, of course, is karma. The causes and conditions were assembled such that I took rebirth in the human form and not in the sugar ant form. But it very easily could have been an ant. I very easily could have been born as a sugar ant. And I might be born in a future life as a sugar ant. Yeah. As near as I can tell, sugar ants and all insects don't have the same freedoms that I have in this human form. So that's a rebirth for me to be very concerned about. a future rebirth that would have very, into my way of thinking, unfortunate implications. Not much freedom that I can see that sugar ants have. Those of you who have traveled from Las Cruces to El Paso know that there are cattle stockyards between let me think about this, on the south side of Interstate 10, there are stockyards with lots and lots of cows out there. And the stockyards have, like, it appears to be just an ocean of dirt and cattle poop. Yep. And the cows spend their time out there 24/7, 365, in these stockyards. And they have, like, the owners of the stockyards have constructed like little things that look like carports. They look like carports for the cows to get shade under, right? And in the summertime, July, August, it's really hot in that region between Las Cruces and El Paso, well over 100 degrees. And sometimes you'll see the cows congregated under these little bits of shade created by these carport type structures. Looks like a dreadful experience. It looks like a dreadful existence. Completely, utterly dreadful. I could have been reborn as a cow in the stockyards in between Las Cruces and El Paso. I might take rebirth if the causes and conditions assemble. That could be my next rebirth. That's a terrifying existence for me to contemplate. And just on like that, we're out of time. I'm already over time. But any, virtually any experience, if just by virtue of the fact that you are here now in this moment with the freedom to listen to Dharma teachings, wisdom-based teachings, you have the wherewithal, you have the inclination, you have the freedoms. To my way of thinking, anything else is a downgrade. Any other rebirth is a downgrade, whether it's as an insect, as a cow, living in the slums of Calcutta, like living in North Carolina, trying to get drinking water. Yeah, any rebirth, I think, from where we are now is a downgrade. And there are countless trillions and trillions of different scenarios into which we could take rebirth and we could be reincarnated into. And please give yourself permission to contemplate what some of those scenarios might look like. And that is the type of suffering that the Buddha implored us to get to know. You should know suffering. When we come to know the sufferings of future rebirths, rebirth after rebirth, life after life, without control, then maybe that will incentivize us, motivate us to awaken to the illusory self and get off the karmic wheel and liberate ourselves from uncontrolled rebirth. That's the point. That's the point of awakening to the confused notion of an inherently existing self and recognizing that the self is illusory. We recognize that there's no truly existing self. We're free from karma. We're free from the karmic wheel. We're liberated from samsara and all of the uncontrolled rebirths that come as a part of samsara, that are inextricably linked with samsara. So, thank you. Use your imagination. Please contemplate deeply. And we will get on to the next chapter of training and tenderness on Monday. Thanks, you guys. Have a great weekend.
Thanks. You
Thanks,
too.
Jeff.
Jeff.
Yep, you're welcome.